Chapter 15. After Freikstallen, the wild geese flew straight over the wonderful woodlands of Varmland, now brilliant in all their autumn colors, then across the long, clear blue lakes and their yellow shores. The boy was pleased to have been able to talk to a human, and the old lady had given him slight hope and confidence, which must have been why he was able to think of a way to prevent the great white gander from going home. "Look, Martin, isn't it lovely?" he said. "I was just wondering whether we shouldn't go overseas together with the wild geese. It'd be a pity not to see more of the world." "You can't mean that seriously," said the horrified gander. He had just shown that he was able to make a journey to Lapland, and was now quite content to go back to the goose pen in Holger Nilsson's cowshed. "I thought you wanted to show your mother and father what a clever boy you've become, Tom Thumb," he went on. All summer, Martin had been dreaming of showing Dunfin and the goslings to all the other animals and to the farmer's wife, so that he was not particularly pleased with the boy's suggestion. The wild geese then flew over the western part of Dalsland, where it was even more magnificent than in Varmland. There were so many lakes, the land seemed to be high banks between them, and the steep shores like lovely parks with their bright red aspen trees, creamy birches, and reddish-yellow rowans, the evening sun casting streaks of gold across the dark waters. "Don't you think it'd be a pity not to see more of all this glory?" said the boy. "I'd rather have the rich fields at home in Soderslatt," said the gander. Look, Martin," cried Nils again. "Have you ever seen anything like it?" High up above the road, a large boat was gliding along a channel, and above that ran a railway line, a train rushing along it. And just imagine, above that a bridge with people looking down on it all. "The Haverud Aqueduct," called the older geese. "That's the Dalsland Canal running below us." "You don't see things like that in Skane," said Nils. "Oh, well," said Martin, "if you simply must go on to see more peculiar things, then I suppose I'll have to go with you." "I thought that'd be your answer," said the boy, and you could hear that he considered his troubles now over. As the geese flew over Bohuslän, he saw that the mountain ranges were now clearer and the valleys like small crevices with gleaming black lakes at the bottom. The boy stared over at the bright streak that was the sea as it grew broader and broader until it was there, milky white and shifting in rose red and sky blue ahead of them, the great red sun just about to dive below the waves. The boy had a great sense of peace and safety as he looked at the infinite open sea and the mild evening sun. "Not worth getting upset," the sun was saying. "The world is a wonderful place to live in for both large and small, and it's good to be free and happy-go-lucky with the whole universe ahead of you." Bohuslän resembled one of the long stone wall with some lush grass in the cracks, Nils thought. Here and there the wall had collapsed, and the sea was able to creep into great long fjords. Though it was just as well the magnificent archipelago lay beyond to take on the worst assaults from the sea and storms. It must be different to live in Bohuslän, thought Nils. The people of Bohuslän travel on roads they don't have to build or repair, can catch creatures no one has to herd or look after, and their boats are drawn by hauliers needing neither food nor stables. They have no fear of settling when there's hardly any room for a potato patch, for they know the great wealth of the sea can provide them with all they need. But the sea was also difficult to handle. Any man wishing to wrest something from it had to be knowledgeable in a great many ways, and first and foremost be courageous and not be afraid of risking his life in the struggle against the waves. As the wild geese flew down the coast the next morning, the small fishing villages and their brightly painted cottages were quiet and still, the brown nets hanging on the drying racks and the blue and green boats, their sails furled, lay bobbing up and down in the harbors. The gutting benches were empty and the pilot house closed, but suddenly a swarm of gulls set off at speed to the south, the cormorants following them in their plodding flight. The boy saw dolphins gliding through the sea like long black spools, and a clump of seals humping their way down from a scurry. Then suddenly people were running around on the slippery flat stones in the fishing villages, the boats made ready and the dry nets carefully taken on board. Soon the water was full of brown and green sails. "What's going on? What's going on?" asked the young geese. And a passing long-tailed duck replied, "The herring have come to Marstrand. The herring have come to Marstrand." The wild geese arrived at the wide fjord just as a shoal of herring poured in from the west. The men in boats knew from the rippling and darkening of the water that the herring had stopped, so they put out their long nets in a circle, then tied them up at the bottom so the herring found themselves in an enormous sack. This was then drawn to and tightened until the glittering catch could be hauled out of the depths. The men were standing knee-deep in herrings, fish scales winking from sou'wester to the edge of their yellow oilskins. The people on land seemed delirious at the sight of all this silver hauled up out of the waves. The wild geese flew round several times so that Nils could see it all. He also noticed more and more ships at sea, still apparently coming from or sailing toward the definite place. "That's Gothenburg over there," cried a caw. And although the geese were flying high, Nils could see that it was a truly rich merchant city. He had never seen so many bright red-tiled and vivid green copper roofs before. Blue canals crisscrossed through the parks, leading out to the wide harbor that was the mouth of the river Gotha, and hundreds of ships were lying there along the kilometer-long quays. They would soon be out on all the seas of the world, overseas, just like Nils Holgersson.